Hello people, do you want to switch to product management in Fintech? Here we are with Priyanka, who is product manager at PhonePe. We are going to answer all your queries from how to switch to Fintech product management, which starts from basic resume building to what day-to-day life of a product manager is like. Hello Priyanka, thanks for
Hi,
having me
Sagar.
here today and giving your valuable time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thanks. Before we start, I want to know how your life as product manager in PhonePe, which is a fintech company, is.
Well, working for a fintech company is very interesting because the space is pretty fast moving in nature, and things are largely dependent on what is happening around in the world. What suddenly RBI decides things to make, like, turn into. So it's interesting to work in the fintech world, and from a product management standpoint, I think there's a lot to do there. There's a lot.
Agreed. So, I have seen this wave of people switching to fintech specifically. What is your thought on that? How do you want to, let's say, is it more towards people where they are more interested, they should go into fintech, or it's fine, even if you're not interested or not aware of this space, you can switch to product management in fintech?
I think that's a good point about fintech, is that you need not always have in-depth knowledge. Like, I come from a background where I was working for Medtech, I was working for Practo, and from there I moved on to PayU and then eventually PhonePe. So the transition was, I would say, comparatively smoother. I obviously had my own set of jitters, thinking about that whether transitioning into a new domain would be easy or not, but it turned out to be good and rather interesting, where you are learning a lot of things on the go and you are implementing as well. So some basic knowledge, obviously, yes, required, but largely you can enter and explore it on your own.
Medtech or health tech versus fintech? What's your take on that? Because that's a very interesting space. People from medtech, health tech are switching to fintech, but not the other way around.
Right. I think it's what is a major difference between health tech and fintech would be that health tech is a comparatively slow moving space. It moves, the product that you'll build, the outcome of it, the implementation, the result of it would come out to be way slower compared to fintech, where the adaptation rates are higher, usage rates are higher. Suddenly you'll see a lot of money coming in. So
True.
that's the difference there.
True. Let's talk specifically about resumes. What will you recommend our audience to how to build resumes for fintech product manager jobs?
I think my inclination would be more towards building a good product management resume compared to trying to build one for any particular space, be it health tech, be it fintech. A good resume would always attract you into a good job profile, and fintech is, as we were just talking about, is blooming at the moment. It will automatically take you there. The resume should be very crisp, clear, number driven, impact driven from product management perspective. And even if you don't have impact, if you know your resume well, that is the key point.
So let's say I take an example that I'm building rewards in PhonePe, or the job profile is for building rewards. What numbers a person can show or display in his or her resume?
Right. So I think in terms of numbers, it would mostly count in the capability of a person to empathize with the user. Okay. If a person has done some user study, has built something basis what the learnings from the user has. So if you're building rewards, for example, in case you're building for rewards, then you need to know what is it that is rewarding for your user, what will attract your user. So I mean, keeping that apart and coming back to the resume part here, if you are planning to build a resume and if you want to apply for a job, as you just mentioned, that for rewards for product management, then in that case, I think what really calls for is, number one, empathy for your user. Number two, how much of a market study or market research you do before building anything from scratch. Number three is how good you are with stakeholder management, because releasing of any product really needs a lot of hustle and interactions, right, with business teams to marketing teams to engineering teams, and a lot of other stakeholders are required. So if you have done a good stakeholder management tasks or set of project in the past, that is going to be a good value add in your resume for sure. I think one more thing is that if you have delivered something and that product, project, whatever you have delivered has created a difference or impact, sometimes quantitative, sometimes qualitative, do mention that in your resume because it is going to help a
So
lot.
what do you prefer, qualitative or quantitative?
I think it's subjective. For a product management,
Let's say there are two resumes and
Right.
this person has mentioned that I have dealt with a team of 12 team members but delivered, let's say, 2 lakh rewards, right?
Right.
Versus a person who has dealt with 3 team members and has dealt with bigger numbers like 2 crore of rewards, or let's say 3 crore of rewards.
I think it's not just going to pivot around these points. It's
Okay.
very subjective in nature. Depends on the product. Depends on the type of product, the scale, the domain you are functioning in. Like if you're trying to give rewards to visit a doctor, even if you give rewards, a person is not going to
True,
visit a
absolutely,
doctor
yeah.
if there is
Yeah.
until unless there's a need for it. But if you're giving rewards to do a particular transaction on fintech, yes, people will work. So it is relative and subjective. There is no binary answer to it, Samir.
Understood. In PhonePe, let's say how your week or a day looks like, what specific features that you are working on, if that's okay to share with us.
Right, sure. So I am working on the PhonePe for Business app, which is basically the merchant-facing side.
Okay.
So what you usually see is users who are using the normal PhonePe app trying to scan, do bill payments, etc. But when you are scanning that amount, it goes to a merchant, and merchant also needs to manage that money. That happens using the PhonePe for Business app. So I'm taking care of PhonePe for Business app as well as the dashboard that these merchants use to manage their monies better.
Understood. So you have mentioned that this whole ecosystem of payments, if let's say a person is applying for PhonePe or any other fintech company, should know these basics, how a payment is driven.
Right, I think basics are definitely important. You need to know something as basic as what are the different payment modes that are available, UPI, or what do terminologies like MDR, etc. mean. These do count in to become essential for you to be able to understand, but that this information is something which is readily available on the internet, and you need not push yourself too much to
Understood.
learn this.